Hi there, welcome. It's SVPod. Stanford Steve's already laughing. Buckle up. Lots to get to. Red is here. Used to be you want to go for a walk was most excited he gets. Now you say you want to go do a podcast.
See? Head up.
You want to do a podcast? Yeah. Buddy, this is it. That's all there is. There he goes. He's looking for something else. Ohio State are national champions.
Mm-hmm.
Washington and Philadelphia. Kansas City and Buffalo. We're down to the Final Four. The main crux of the conversation. We'll get to that. We kind of need to start with, I think I'm going to sue somebody. I just don't know who. There are scars, and many of you have them, from the Atlanta airport experience on Monday. As I sit here, our folks, I think Jack pulled this up. There's pictures of the lines yesterday in the airport. I tweeted out something about it. I must admit I don't love guy or gal who's rage tweeting their travel experience, because it's sort of like, I get it sucks, but what do you want us to do about it?
Yeah.
Yesterday, there were, give or take, the Mercedes-Benz Dome Stadium, whatever, holds about 72,000 people. All of them were in the airport yesterday morning, and we were all in it together. And it was a scene unlike, and I've never seen anything like it. And of course, when you tweet that out, there's always, all people on Twitter. Well, you've never seen this airport. I've been to airports in the UK.
Why don't you have Clear and TSA? Have both.
Son of a gun, I didn't think of that. I'm just over here helplessly wandering with my boarding pass. Wait, there's a whole, what's Clear? We had it. It didn't matter. Do a Twitter search. Look at what you see. There were thousands of people wandering with no direction, no idea where to go or what to do. We were all just moving in unison together. Thousands of people. And I can't figure out, for those of you that say, well, that's just a normal Tuesday in the Atlanta International Airport, I promise you it's not. You love to talk about it's the busiest airport in the world. You know what it would be? Not that, if it was like yesterday every day, because no one would fly out of your airport ever. And I blame myself, because many years ago I was at the Super Bowl in Detroit. That was Pittsburgh, Seattle.
It's the worst. Day after the Super Bowl is the worst.
And that's why I don't go to Super Bowls anymore. You fly out the day after the Super Bowl and you say to yourself, well, there'll be no more of this.
3 p.m.
And I just haven't done it since. The veteran move is to leave in advance.
Dang.
Always fish. You see all these people coming in and you're walking out. I've said this line. You've heard me say it. That always some fan goes, Scott, you're going the wrong way. And I smile and go, no, I'm not. I'm doing the veteran play here. I just, to anyone that lived it, the look of just resignation, the grim, just, you're resigned to your fate. There's nothing you could do. They're several hours early because you knew it would be bad. Didn't make any difference. There was no getting through those lines. If it snuck up on you all at the airport, shame on you. If you just can't handle that many people, then you shouldn't be allowed to have that many people fly out at the same time. Figure it out. The good news for me is I was on an earlier flight, which meant that there was a flight behind that I got to be on. The bad news for me was that Steve was on that flight. Somehow, I want to give a shout out to my girl, Dawn Wynn. You know who you are. A genius travel cheat code, the best. Dawn, any chance? Hold on. Somehow gets me a seat on the flight that you're on. That was the 1150.
What seat?
Lucky enough to be flying in a comfortable wide seat up front going out. We got 30A going home. Better than a middle seat, but that's in the back up against the window. And it meant that I had to walk past Steve on my way to the back. And as we're getting on the plane, and we're all in this together. There's a million Notre Dame fans, a million Ohio State fans. We're all making the best of it. Everybody, like, considering how fights could have broken out, everybody was really in pretty. It was communal. We were in this together. But as I got ready to go on the plane, I said to Steve, if you start laughing at me when I walk past you and start taking pictures of me, I swear to God, I'm going to ball up my bony fist and I'm going to punch you in the fucking head. And so I get on, and one of the best things about Steve is this infectious laugh that you hear. But you see the joy in his face as I go wandering past to go to the back. Boy, it was... listen, at that point, I would have ridden the overhead. I was just so happy I was going to get out. There are people still tweeting as we talk on a Wednesday. What's the day? Wednesday? Wednesday. Yeah. They're still there because you couldn't make it through the line to get to your flight. And then everybody's in the same boat and all the flights going out later are filled. And then I guess there was weather. I don't know if it snowed there. It's incredible. It snowed a foot in New Orleans.
Yeah.
The video of the places down south is incredible, the snow. I guess it snowed some in Atlanta, and all it has to do is threaten snow that it's crippling. But there's still people there tweeting, and my heart goes out to you. I got out. Small price to pay to have Steve heckle me. This man brought me a slice of Sbarro, and it was like manna from heaven, and the coldest Diet Coke I'd ever had.
Yep.
That's all I needed to get me through. So I just want to say, buddy, thank you.
You got it. I had a different frame of mind because I never take the first after a big event like that. I remember Super Bowl there, believe it or not, it was worse. We were waiting outside, but the TSA clear, Sky Priority, whatever, there you weren't as long of a line. That was, the regular general admission, whatever you want to call it, that was out on the streets, but it's still mind-blowing to see. So I take a later flight all the time. I think this was, 11:20. And then I wake up to text from you, get here. It's the worst I've ever seen. Other texts from other people that went early, trying to get early flights. They didn't get them. So I'm like, all right, I'll put a little pep in my step. I've seen this airport as bad as you're saying it is. And I'm upset because our guys always say, do the international thing because you do that and then you take the tram inside. I was like, maybe I could do it before I go see it and then go do it. But no, that's too far because it's literally miles away. But I have this inner confidence in me that they have gone through the worst that I don't have. It's only going to get better when you have that many people. And I get there. They're opening things up. And luckily there was a lady clear TSA and it was just opening. Boom, we get there. The issue is when
good for you, bud.
When you get there and you still see machines open. You know what I mean? Like the security thing. And like there's just people in blue shirts all over. I'm like, why isn't everything open right now? That's what I don't understand. You have people just standing, and I get it. They got to monitor if there is something in the bag. But the whole order of process, and I do it every single week, and I still question how it's done. Then as I'm about to finally put my bags through, one of the blue shirts walked up to the guy that just took my ID, and he's like, what do you think? Should we close it now? And I'm like, these guys are making decisions?
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to make my flight. I get it. It's been a horrendous day. But then I get a text from you, and I'm like, oh, man, he's going to be on the same flight as me. And he sends me the seat number. And I'm like, I can't stop laughing. I'm laughing through the bag, and I'm like, all right, we're at whatever it was, C46. And I'm just giggling the whole way because I'm like, what am I going to walk up to? So then I walk up, and you're in line with about 12 other people trying to upgrade their seat. And, of course, no one's at the desk.
No.
And we're like a half hour, 20 minutes before boarding.
Fine. We'll figure it out.
And then you say, don't talk to me. I don't want to see you. I said, you want a slice of pizza? You said yes. So I went and got a slice of pizza and a cold Diet Coke.
Oh, it was so good.
But I just...
It was complete systemic failure. Breakdown. Me and Matt Berry get there at the same time. And if you know the Atlanta airport, there's like, it's kind of it's an open space, and then there's kiosks everywhere because now, whether it's grocery stores or airports, they want you to do their work for them. They want you to check yourself out at the grocery store. They want you to get your boarding pass or check your bag. That's on you to do. And it was basically in that airport yesterday, if you walked in the wrong door, you just were at the back of the line because it was just a funnel. There was no order to this process. So me and Matt are like, there was no idea of a line. There was just a mob of people. And I look at Matt and I'm like, we gotta audible. And we just started moving down towards what looked like where you could get through. Because you realized if you came in like one gate down or one entrance down closer to where the line started, those people were just going to funnel into the mob of people, which is what they did. So we did that, but we weren't cutting a line because there wasn't a line to be on or in, depending on where you're from in the country, and if you say online or in line.
Did you go around where the turn was, where they were giving out water?
There was no water.
Oh, there was water when we had there. That's where we might have made a move.
Way to go! Listen.
I did ask you too on Sunday. I said, "Hey, might be some weather.
Yeah,
Tuesday in Atlanta.
Yeah,
after an event.
Yeah,
and you said thinking about getting one of those planes.
We tried.
Will you ever not get another one of those planes?
What were the last two words of the text that I sent you, Steve?
Never again.
That's it. There'll be no more of this. I want to make it clear. I like to think of myself as a man of the people. I will admit to the fact that we get really spoiled the way we travel to Monday Night Football. Shout out to our friends at Wheels Up. You fly on one of them planes, as Steve calls them, the PJ Life. It's just you and the bird. Plane takes off when you get there. Nothing spoils you worse. Nothing. Because that's the way that people travel. And I'm used to that. I did that. Now I've been really spoiled.
And the plane leaves when you get there.
Correct. There's no, hey, I spent 2 hours in the line. And this is my favorite part. I haven't told it, but I'll tell it. I was going out of gate A6, and I'm just like, look, after I finally get through this line, and I'm like, well, the plane takes off 5 minutes ago, but you never know. You got to go to the gate. And I'm running. I'm the asshole running. And I'm running, and I'm wearing a big, heavy overcoat, and I'm schwitzing. And I get to A6, and as I'm getting to A6, I start slowing down because I see that the thing doesn't say Washington, it says Dallas-Fort Worth. And I get there, I look, and it's the guy, I'm like, Washington? He's like, oh, that plane's been going. And now I just sort of spin around in a circle, and I just go, fuck! And it's at that point that I realized I'm 6'6", I don't blend in well, and I realize there's a lot of people looking at me, and you kind of feel like, oh, that probably wasn't the way to go. And then I just went over and I just leaned up. Wait, I went to the Delta thing for some help. And she's like, you got to put your name in. I'm like, okay, put my name in. You're 51 in line. I'm like, I literally just lean up against the wall and I slide down. I forgot to bring my good shoes. My good airport shoes. I got on dress shoes. I got on some fancy Tom Fords. So I look like a crazy European wearing like regular pants but fancy boy shoes. My bags are all asunder. I'm laying down. I'm just screaming obscenity in front of everybody. I'm 51 in line, and I'm like, I start firing off texts to bosses. I'm never going to make it for the TGL tonight. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. And it's at this point that I say, never again. From this point forward, it's the PJ life for me exclusively. That's it. That's not true. Can't afford it. I'm not a rich guy. But yeah, it was a scene, man. It was a scene. Some guy tweeted to me, I saw you on the ground in the fetal position in the A gate. And I'm like, yeah, that was me. You know that whole not the fake, like, where in the world? Where in the world? It was me laying down with my crap everywhere. And at that point, I'd given up. The will to live had left me.
That's exactly what I was thinking as I was walking up to the gate. I'm like, how many people are going to be not the fake? And the first guy I see, and it's far, but I see a guy reading a book, and I'm like, that sure as hell ain't him.
No, sir. I did not have inner excellence out with highlighted passages.
I just,
oh, God.
My favorite part was as we start the board, and I'm in zone 1, and I'm like, what zone are you? And you look down at your boarding pass. He's like, fucking 5. So as the people are boarding the plane, I'm like, are you guys zone 5? I'm like trying to wait. And then 2 guys that saw us talking, he's like, oh, he's coming. He's right behind us, and he's coming for you. I'm like, sweet.
And then
give me another screwdriver.
And then when they came, they had to get the jaws of life to get me out of my seat because I'm wedged in there against the window like this. And they come and they extricate me. By the time I got off the plane, he's already on an Uber on the way home.
See ya.
He sends me a picture. I'm in a car on the way home. So, if you're still in Atlanta, God bless you and good luck. We made it out only because I had the incomparable Dawn Wind travel savant who somehow got me 30C. I was grateful to have it. Matt Berry made it to Palm Beach Gardens
last night.
And I made it there as well. But literally, we're together, and at some point, we were like on Titanic together. I was like, I'll never let go. And then somehow we both made it on a lifeboat and made it out. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how anyone made it anywhere yesterday in Atlanta. Holy smokes, that was something.
I was in front of a woman who had the digital thing, and she's like, I'm like, because I just kept asking, I'm like, I got clear TSA. It's got to be better than what that is over there.
Nope.
And I'm like, how are you? I'm like, you're not fretting at all? You're not nervous? She's like, no, the heat went out in my Airbnb, so I got to the airport early, and boy, am I glad I did. I'm like,
wow,
good move for you.
Again, and I'm sorry to do this to the folks for whom it is the cheat code, but as we've established, I'm never doing this again, so I just want to help those that are. If you ever have a situation a day after a giant event, the thing to do is to go through the international check-in, because you bypass all this, and once you're past that and you get on a tram, you just get on the train and go to, welcome to the Orlando International Airport. Next stop, B-Gate.
That tram does nothing on it. I looked at it. Nothing says international. Like, that's a pretty nervous thing to do for the first time.
Yeah, but once
maybe you just try it once.
I don't know what.
You're not going to, because you don't have to.
No, never again. There'll be no more of that. All right, thanks for listening to the pod. Are you guys going to get to the foot? Yeah, eventually.
Oh.
It was a scene. It was a scene. And anyone that lived it's like, yep. And those that didn't are going to just say it was a normal Tuesday. Okay, no. Sure it was. You're right. We should have gone to the TSA pre-check with the 0 line, and we'd have been fine. There were no cheat codes.
Shout out to the people that had kids, too. I can't.
Yeah, there was that line where, like, if you had a disability or a child, you could go through. And I was thinking, listen, I'll grab a kid and walk him through. Hey, buddy, you want to? But hey, come with Uncle Scott. We're going to take a walk. Bring your parents. They can walk behind us.
And then I also think of the people that did like curbside check-in, check their bags, their planes are gone, and they got stuck in Atlanta. That's awful.
Yeah, so it's you don't want to be separated from your bag. Whatever. Okay. Sucked. Somehow we made it. Shout out Sabara. I was a hell of a slice, by the way.
They don't mess around.
And then that's why I didn't punch you in the head, because you saved me. Ohio State won the game on Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
The scene in the building, just what I expected.
Spectacular.
Great fan bases. Every seat's filled. There's a little nervous energy on the Notre Dame side. They're wondering.
It was a lot because they all had the same feeling. Being there all weekend, that's what it was. And
can we do it?
Getting there Friday, Saturday, all green, all over. And then the Army starts to come in Sunday. Places get a little louder. Places get a little more redder. And this bravado that they can only bring starts coming over. So I think that really seeped in to the Notre Dame. I mean, if you're one of them, you're just seeing this takeover, which they do everywhere. And And then when you got outside, unfortunately, man, was it windy. Holy cow. To your point, I would love to be able to measure the madness of rage when you fell down the wall and yelled the explanity to...
Explanity? Expletive.
There you go.
Explanity's fine.
Fine.
The Explanity Center.
To the rage of walking out of the dome of our Sunday night show that I talked about last week that we love. It's me, Greg McElroy, Nagandi, Joey Galloway, and Booger. And it's between a quarter and a half mile walk. We did it after the show at 1 a.m.
Yeah, boy, that was cold.
And those guys, Joey likes his sunshine. Booger obviously lives in Florida now. But just the rage and words that were yelled, like there's nothing going. It's 10:30 at night, and you got to get to the hotel. Oh man, it was. You don't expect it, but from my standpoint, I go back to the Super Bowls and national titles in Dallas. Like that weather was insane, and it feels like it always follows us. So it was tip of the hat to the I mean, I was doing shows all day Mondays. We started 2:00 outside, and the people that can hold a cold beer in that weather, God bless you. I couldn't even hold my papers.
Those are professionals on particularly the Ohio
Both
State
fan bases have.
Yeah, I agree, but the Ohio States they're just wired differently. It's just, I say mutants, but I say it with love. It's a respect. Like you guys are just one of one. The scene was great. Out on the field pregame, which I love. I love to feel that energy, and we do countdown, but we're working, and so to not have a show to do until it was over, it's such a blast. I'm down there with Dusty Dvorak, and we're looking at both sides, and we're down there in the trenches with that Ohio State side, and we're like, good Lord, man, they got some dudes, and the Ohio State side, I mean, the Notre Dame side felt like there was an angst, there was a question. We're good. We didn't get here by accident.
No.
They're deeper and they're more talented. That's just the truth. They're not as impacted by injuries. Notre Dame's lost a bunch of guys. And then, Steve, after the scene and the build-up, and it's let's go, they go on a 10-minute drive. Was it 18 or 19 plays? 19 plays. And you look around, and Dusty and I look at each other, and we're like, damn. And it was a really interesting conversation I had late at night with Chris Fowler, who's brilliant. And he said, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a Grand Slam match and somebody wins the first set against Rafa Nadal. It takes an hour and 15 minutes, and they win the first set 7-6 in a tiebreak. And you realize that's it. They used so much gas and spent so much energy to do it. I don't know what they've got left. Then it goes 3 straight sets. Nadal, he wins in 4. You get the first one. That's not quite how it went because there was a comeback. We could talk about it. But it was interesting to see Riley Leonard lands on the football. He's puking. They're exhausted. And it's like, we scored. But then Ohio State says, okay, cool. And they rip off 1, 2, 3 consecutive scores. And it just was interesting how much was spent to get that first score.
Yeah, I always go into these games, especially being there and being fortunate enough every week. It's usually the game day game, so it's a big game. But you can't overreact. And what I mean by that is how many times in the NFL and college football do teams get the ball and go right down the field and score?
It happened in the Baltimore-Buffalo game last week. It happened in the Philadelphia game. It happened in the I believe the Lions scored there. No, they punted the first time, but go ahead.
All the time. It happens all the time.
A lot.
And to sit there and watch, and I'm watching what Notre Dame's doing, and I'm watching Ohio State because this is when you come out with your plan. You've had over a week to prepare. You're going to have some wrinkles in there. You saw it with the quarterback runs. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, there's no way they could keep doing this for 60 minutes because the defense still has to get on the field, and you're not getting another 19-play, 10-minute drive. So I'm just holding it back. And everybody, I'm back in the office watching the TV copy, and I'm like, everybody's like, oh, they're here to play. They're here. I'm like, all right, just And then, obviously Ohio State gets the ball. They're going in. It's the end of the first quarter, and it's 7-0. And then boom, boom, boom. 21-7.
3 consecutive scores. Howard was awesome.
Awesome.
13 for 13 to start the game. I believe the first incompletion was on a wheel route, which was almost a catch, almost a
interception.
Pick, almost a pick, just a great play both ways. I believe that was Judkins.
Yeah.
Might have been Travion. I don't remember. They got options.
It was Travion.
Was it? Yeah, I think it was.
And Watts.
But then Notre Dame, to its credit forever, this team that had been resilient and fought all year, they get it back to a place where it's a 1-score game, and you need one stop.
Mm-hmm.
So much conversation about the identity of Notre Dame's defense. We play man. And they did.
Mm.
And so much conversation from Jeremiah Smith about, I hope you do play man. And it's a 3rd and 11 throw. Notre Dame brought pressure, and it nearly got home. They didn't get close to him a lot, but there was that he had to stand in, and he had to deliver on time and throw the ball to 4. That's been like the running joke. He had a step. Howard throws a perfect pass, and that's lights out. It was just interesting that it came down to a play, and our buddy Chip threw it to 4, and that was the question. Could they guard him? In that particular instance, the answer was no.
Yeah, I just go back to why I was wary of Notre Dame. And in the first half of the Penn State game, that's where I kept going back. They were not good tackling, and they've been an awesome tackling team. So then I start thinking, is it because of playing their schedule that they tackled so well? And then really, but then the second half against Penn State, they tackled, they made plays. And when they got to Monday night, they didn't tackle well at all. And you have to do that against a team like Ohio State, because when it's a third or whatever, if it's a 15-yard gain, you have to keep it at 15. You can't let it get to 40 or 50 or an 80-yard like all that. And it sounds cliche and all, but that it's so important because of the mentality of your defense, the way you're playing, who you have. It's a mindset. And you saw momentum go back and forth a couple times in that game, but the idea of seeing Notre Dame not be able to tackle, that was the biggest fear I had. Not what they were going to do in the secondary. It was that, and they didn't do it well.
Well, as you and I are watching the game together in real time, I said it's amazing that the first guy to hit either Judkins or Henderson never gets them down. Never. Judkins, by the way, he wears the highest shorts I've ever seen. And I noticed Sawyer and Judkins do it too. The backs of their pants, they cut them.
So then they could just pull them
up to the middle of their thigh.
Yeah.
He might as well wear legitimate shorts. It's just insane. He had a huge game. Obviously, he's came over from Ole Miss. But the first person that hits either one of those folks never gets them down. But Howard was great. Smith, again, when push comes to shove, they throw it to him. I think that at the end of it, what was interesting is that, Ohio State spent money for sure. They weren't alone in that.
No,
they got plenty.
Notre Dame did too.
Plenty of company in the high numbered spend, but the story of them losing to Michigan, coming together, the fact that they spent money on guys that all could have gone to the pros. That's the biggest thing now. I don't think it's convincing guys not to go to other places because you're never going to stop that from happening. But convincing the JTTs, the Sawyers, they had more. There's like 0,
8,
yeah. I mean, it's you go down the line with that talented defense that could have left, and instead you're able to come up with enough dough to keep them, and that's where the brotherhood that clearly was brought together after the Michigan loss showed itself. And so, they spent money. You can roll your eyes at overcoming adversity. They have a million advantages over other programs. But they were tested in it, and I was able to finally sort of ask Ryan Day afterwards about that whole Michigan thing, as I talked about, does making one game mean that much, even make any sense? And I said, you know what's cooler than gold pants? A gold trophy. Because Ohio State, if you beat Michigan, you get gold pants. That's like a little trinket you get. I don't mean to make it sound like it's nothing. It's a big deal, but that's the
This group got none of them.
Correct. But okay, we get a gold trophy that says we're the last team standing, and you become a forever team. And so Michigan get to heckle you. That's cool. That's all right.
Yeah.
You won it last year. We won it this year, and we'll see you in Ann Arbor next year. But he answered like, yes, that's and how they treat that game moving forward is up to them. It's their business, not mine. But it galvanized this group in a way that led them to double-digit wins over Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame.
Yeah, a couple things here about the whole idea of this and what we just witnessed.
The playoff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really now wonder, and you could see we talked about the Notre Dame fans' worry that what they were going to be. It's an NFL season, man.
You're right.
Notre Dame, what did they end up, 14-2? Right?
Correct.
They won, 13 in a row. They won the first game, lost the second. With the portal, with NIL, the collective, the whole thing, you got to have – I mean, Ohio State withstood the injuries early in the year, got it back on track, and then was fortunate to run the table here. And now I just start thinking, like, how deep you're going to have to be and how fortunate you're going to have to be when injuries. It caught up with Notre Dame. Everybody talking about, oh, yeah, I would love to see Notre Dame at full strength. Yeah, no kidding. Notre Dame would love to be full strength for this game too. But just the idea of how long – I mean, we do game day and we end the season at A&M, Texas, and then we go to the SEC championship. It's like, all right, next day's the playoff.
Wait 1 second. A&M, Texas feels like it was a year ago, Steve.
That's what I'm trying to get to here.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Because no, you're fine. Because it fits right into what I want to say is, all right, we get a week off. Army-Navy happens. Think about how long ago that is. Then we go South Bend, next day Columbus, whatever amount of days later, Rose Bowl, and then you got the Fiesta Bowl before that, the night before that, and then like just all those home games that we saw, and how long this road has been for us that are covering the sport. I can't imagine being in it.
Yeah,
and how you got it, and that's what Coach Saban kept talking about. Like, yeah, you're happy that you're here, and he kept talking about Notre Dame. You won the Orange Bowl, but then you got an extra day, and then you watch Ohio State beat Texas, and then it's like, all right, we got to get it. You know, that's a great win to beat. You know, Notre Dame's had horrible luck in these, you know, I still call them BCS bowls, you know, when they would go with these one-offs. But now you win a Sugar Bowl against Georgia. You win an Orange Bowl against Penn State. It's like, all right, we got to do it again. Like, it's asking a lot to the mental of your team. That's how long the postseason was, and they say it in the NBA all the time. And nothing's like the NBA, but even the NFL, and we'll get to those teams. But all you do all regular season for this another month now in college football. It was a month for one game. Now you're getting up off the deck every week,
and you got to get lucky with injuries.
No doubt.
And Notre Dame didn't. Look at what they lost along the way against Penn State. A couple of offensive linemen, which is what made that first drive so remarkable to see from them. Just tip of the cap to the guys that are still standing. Their best interior defensive lineman, 99.
Yeah, Riley.
I was right on the Notre Dame sideline. We just happened to end there watching the pregame, and that's where we watched them come out. And the parade of dudes on crutches for Notre Dame, I'm like, man, that's not just a lot of guys injured. It's a lot of guys, guys that mattered injured, and they got unlucky. Penn State, Abdul Carter's going to go top 3 in the draft, I presume. Number 11 in blue was incredible, and he's out there with one arm against Notre Dame, but he got hurt.
Yeah.
That impacted them. You're going to have to get lucky, and that's where the depth of Ohio State and the injury luck was evident. They just had more. They had more dudes, and so it's interesting that this team, with all of the advantages they have, still had this redemptive arc that was real because of what happened with Michigan, and that's a fan base that frankly, you guys can be insufferable and arrogant, and but there was a humbling that came as a result of that loss, where you're never the underdogs, you were the favorites, but it to me it felt different. It felt like it was cathartic for them to finish it off, for the guy that they wanted out in Ryan Day to be able to say, "Am I good now? We good?
Come on.
Can I stay? Can you guys not hassle my kids at school? Jeez, oh, flip, man. Enough. The guy's winning percentage is about 90.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the point to me, and I understood what he was doing. It's like, we've done this. We've only done this 3 times. It's not your birthright, okay? It's not your birthright to do this. You're not Alabama with Saban. Like, you haven't won that many. So I hope there's an appreciation that it's hard to do, and you guys just did it. And I say you guys because it's all of you. It's the people that put your money in the collective. It's that rage, passion line. Like, in the end, it felt like it was fuel for positive. All that angst from that Michigan game, that was gone. And you could feel that building and that roar when they completed that pass to Smith. I'm standing right there on the sideline right in front of us. Like, I get goosebumps right now. I'll never forget that roar because it was like letting go of all of it. And, like, we did it. And I'd say to all that scarlet and gray in the stands, all of you are we. You guys did it together. And good for them. They were worthy champions.
Going back to your point, when he says that's 3 teams in 50 years of Ohio State football, think about the players that we have watched in our lifetime. That's my whole lifetime.
Yep.
And, you know, your Heisman, Troy Smith, Eddie George, all the guys, the defensive guys that have played, the NFL studs that never won a national title. And then I think back, all right, what was the last one? Urban. Okay, what does Urban do? They're young. They got Zeke Elliott, and they got to piece together a quarterback position, and they're an underdog against Bama. They win. They go and beat Oregon with Mariota. And then the next year, they're supposed to do it. They have everybody back.
Yeah.
They don't even make the playoff. So, like, it made me sink in the madness that makes Ohio State fans because of all the team. I mean, what Michigan has done to them in years. I'm not even talking about with Ryan Day. I'm going back to, Lloyd Carr when Tress started getting it going. But that idea, but I wanted to ask you because I haven't seen it, and it's the coolest thing in the whole season. And when he signed Chip Kelly, it's all I thought of. Have you seen anything written about Ryan Day being asked about bringing in Chip Kelly?
Not really. And
it's my favorite story. And, like, Ryan Day, like, that's the other crazy thing. He lost his dad on January 20th in 1988, and he won a national championship on January 20th, 1988. But Ryan Day played quarterback for Chip Kelly at New Hampshire. And then how many years later, it's got to be close to 20, he hires his college coach to call plays for him to get over the hump and win a national title, and they do it.
That's such a great point, and it's such an underreported point because Chip Kelly in the sport became not just a guy, you might say the guy. What he did at Oregon, then goes to be an NFL coach, and then whatever you think of how it worked out, and then he goes to UCLA. And again, whatever you want to say about that, the modern, the NIL and what UCLA had or didn't have to spend, and he's like, you know what, the hell with this. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to call plays for my guy. And he called a hell of a game the other night. And we know it because we know Chip, but I saw him on the sidelines. Chip, you can get a new hat, man.
No way.
Yeah, he's going to keep that
He'll go right back to his Red Sox hat after this.
As he should. But I was happy for him as well.
I couldn't be happier. No, and like that's how I know this. Like Chip used to come to Ansonia High School to recruit when he was at New Hampshire, and then you start hearing about this Ryan Day. New Hampshire was always awesome. Then he goes to Oregon. I'm like, wait a minute, Chip Kelly. He was at New Hampshire. Before that, he was a GA on my brother's team at Columbia, 1992.
That's amazing.
But
I didn't know that.
But all year, I've just thought about it. Like, man, if Ryan Day ever gets over the hump and to be able, like, they're friends. They have houses in New Hampshire together in the summer. They go to Saratoga for a weekend in the summer. Like, they're friends. They're guys. And Ryan Day goes off to the NFL and comes back to college, gets the Ohio State job, and Chip's goes to UCLA, comes work at ESPN for, like, bouncing around. But then to finally pull that trigger, you know what? There's one guy I really want because it was supposed to be Bill O'Brien, if you remember.
Yeah.
Then he gets the
head
PC
coaching
job. And it's
PC.
like, what the hell's Ryan? Because Ryan, I was in meetings 2 years ago. The goal was, I can't call plays anymore. There's too much other stuff going on with this NIL collective recruiting, and he wanted to hand it off and give it to somebody. And who better to trust than the guy that called your plays in college? It's the best story there is, and I can't imagine how cool it is that those guys finally got a national championship, a much needed national championship with all that went on, and I'm super happy for those guys.
Notre Dame had a hell of a year. They went through it. I think it was the conversation around them for the longest has been that they got in these one-off games and got trucked. They beat Indiana on their home field, Georgia in SEC country down in New Orleans, and Penn State in a hell of a battle. And they're a stop away from having a chance anyway, and they fought for 60. I think in Freeman and what you saw from them, only pride in that. And I actually shared that with Coach Freeman, just the idea that because of our airport experience, got to be in that airport for a longer time than I anticipated. But among that Irish fan base yesterday, chin up, shoulders back, there was a lot of pride in what their team did, and there should have been. That was a proud group that looks back on this. Did they want to win? Of course, everybody wants their team to win. But only pride in what they did in this year. And in this era of inclusion where there's more people, more seats at the table, I think you're only going to continue to see them in the conversation.
Herbie made a great point, like we were talking about. Dez was actually the guy that dethroned it. But growing up for me, those Lou Holtz Notre Dame teams, they were cool. They were the team. They won a national title. Tony Rice, Ricky Waters, the whole deal. And they were the cool brand. And they lost that over time. And, Herbie brought up the point that Dez catches a 4th down with Michigan, and I think it's 91, that finally is like, all right, somebody could beat this team early in the year. And now with Marcus Freeman back, it's amazing. And Dez and I were talking about it going through the hotel. If it wasn't Ohio State or a Notre Dame fan, any other kind of fan, sports fan, people that work for a conference, whatever, it was like, I kind of feel different about this Notre Dame team. I don't dislike him as much. And I'm like, because of the head coach and what he's brought to the table. So if you dislike Notre Dame, good luck, because they are here. They are aligned in the front office and administration and priorities as far as that goes. The funding, Marcus has got it rolling. And again, the way he's built this, we talked about the struggles on the offensive line. Knapp was a kid who was a true freshman that filled in and started. I think he played 800 snaps this year. Didn't know that until a couple of weeks before going to A&M, being there and seeing that atmosphere. And I'm like, man, they got something there. And then you see Jeremiah Love. Like, they got some youth here. The quarterback position will be fine. They got C.J. Carr or Angeli.
Peanut butter Angeli.
There we go.
What's up?
But, it sounds like he's going to have to replace his DC. But I haven't even looked at their schedule. I'm sure it's, your normal Notre Dame schedule, which puts them in the playoff again.
And that's a wrap on the first 12-team college football playoff, Ohio State over Notre Dame. Congrats to both. And congrats to the folks in Columbus. You got another one. But again, that's 3-50, not a birthright, remember. And remember, gold trophy, greater than gold pants. That's a forever team. Because if you beat Michigan, but you don't win a title, you're the one that remembers that. Nobody else does. Everybody's going to remember this team. Everybody knows the Chiefs. They've won 2 in a row. They're going for 3. We were in Kansas City last Saturday, and, buddy, let me tell you. I don't know how. Baltimore was colder last year than this year, but I got a lot of texts and heard from a lot of people in Atlanta. You looked cold in Kansas City. Did I? That's because it was cold, man. And we sat out there for 2.5 hours talking about a game. I stood up. I couldn't feel my feet. And Swag. I love Swag with all my heart. Remember we were in Lambeau and he said, "Hey, Scott, if it gets cold, I got to go to the hospital." and at some point in the middle of 2.5 hours standing out there, Swag's just standing out there on the field, and there was a break, and I was getting up to see if I could get my legs to function. And I go over. I'm like, "Marcus, you all right?" And he looks at me with this sad face. He's like, Scott, man, I'm all fucked up. What's wrong? He's like, I thought I was prepared. It's like, I can't feel my body.
Oh.
He's a guy from down in Louisiana, and you guys aren't built for the snow. I don't know what you're doing with a foot of snow in New Orleans. It's incredible, the visuals from down there. I mean, it's just such a gorgeous city, and then had the visuals of familiar landmarks in New Orleans covered in snow is amazing.
Let's save that for it because
Okay.
I have stories talking to people,
right.
texting with. It's incredible.
It was. So we did our best with the cold. They win a game against the Texans where the Texans, it was the stat was amazing. Like in the history of playoff football, when you outgain your opponent by 100 and don't have a turnover, they'd never lost. They were the first team that had that happen to them. You just have to be perfect, it seems, to beat the Chiefs. People complain about the penalties. I would say this. It's like a friend in the business described him as being like the rep about Duke, like a really good team that tends to get a good whistle. I didn't love the second Mahomes call, but it turns into a week-long discourse of all these stats and this and that and the other. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I didn't love the calls, but it's not why they lost the game.
No. And that's the problem is you just see it. And I'm glad you pointed it out because I've talked about how I can't do the social media thing during games. Like, it just put the phone down and watch the game.
It's smart.
But like now we're in an airport for 3 hours. What are you doing? You know? And I'm going through and I'm just like, this, you want to talk about when coaches say, oh, we can't get caught up in the distractions. This is it. Going to New England or going to Kansas.
It's just like it.
Funny how I said New England.
Yeah.
Going to Kansas City and worrying about who's reffing the game, who's the ref that has the most personal foul. Like, that's what I get caught. I'm like, stop. Put the tape on. Watch what you think's going to happen. And it's already happened because you talk about an army. There's an army that is on this Buffalo bandwagon. I'm not even talking about the Mafia. I'm talking about another army that's coming to join the Mafia because they're tired of the Chiefs. And that's the number one rule. They've been at this position before. They beat them in their stadium. That means nothing right now. You have to come in for 60 and play distraction-free football and execute your game plan. If you run the ball like you have these first two playoff games, you're going to be fine. But can you? And that's where it gets to the other side. When you talk about the distractions and what is going to get called with and for Mahomes, the Chiefs' defense will play well. They are going to frustrate Josh Allen. Will he stay disciplined and stay on the game plan? That's all this game comes down to, is if Buffalo's offense can keep Kansas City off the field. And they do that by running the ball with James Cook, Davis, whoever.
Ty Johnson.
Ty Johnson's been awesome. I believe he's playing for a contract too. Give me that guy on my team. And Josh Allen in the run game. So it's there for the taking. You knew in the back of your mind, talking to Bills fans, and we know a bunch of them, that it was going to come down to this to take that next step.
Go Bills.
And I heard it's a keg day.
What does that mean?
They just rip kegs for Bills away big games.
Okay. I was going to say, how's that make it like the Atlanta International Airport? Oh, that's just I thought that was just Tuesday in Buffalo.
No, like they get them like to their house.
Sure, why wouldn't you? Just throw them in the yard in the snowbank. The thing that has been the most interesting determiner of who wins games in this postseason, and it's not unusual, but this is kind of how it goes. I find the stat incredible. There have been 10 games, 10 teams have won games. The teams that have won, Steve, have 3 turnovers. The teams that have lost have 21. Buffalo beats Baltimore for a lot of different reasons. 3 turnovers to none.
There you go.
Can't have that on the road in playoff football. I loved Lamar Jackson after. Loved it. Exasperated, sick of it. He's cursing. He's apologizing. Don't apologize for the passion you have to be the leader of this team. Talking about the turnovers and how they cannot happen. And he's taking bullets for his guys, Mark Andrews, a guy you and I both like a lot, who's been great for them. And, man, that's a brutal end. Puts it on the ground down 24-15 driving. No, 24-19, I beg your pardon. Driving. And then has the ball in his hands to tie the game. And, brutal. I mean, it's a brutal, brutal ending. You got to be perfect. It got to be clean. You don't have to be perfect, but you cannot be. Can't put the ball on the ground. And Jackson led in a great way afterwards to be the leader and eat the things. Didn't even mention drops, whatever else. He said, this is on me. And I love the fact, don't love all the accounting of penalties afterwards as it relates to the Chiefs because it becomes a bit exhausting.
Yep.
I love the fact that people point out, you know what Peyton Manning's record was in his first 8 playoff games? 3-5. Well, what do you know about that? Let's just let the man continue to grow. Let's give him some more runway before we say what he can't do. Because Peyton Manning was 3-5. Lamar Jackson's 3-5. And by the way, Lamar Jackson, that first turnover where he throws it, looks like he and Bateman are on like double move, and whatever happens, like that didn't cost him. They didn't give up points on that drive. The fumble, DeMar Hamlin knocks it out, and Von Miller scooped it. That was costly. But, I mean, the last 2 plays the man had for Lamar Jackson. I pointed this out a ton with Josh Allen. That game they lost in Arrowhead in the playoffs, the legendary game, the last 2 times Josh Allen was on the field, he walked off the field with them leading in regulation with 12 seconds left and in overtime up 3. They lost. The last 2 throws Lamar Jackson had in that game against Buffalo were a dime to Likely and a pass that could it have been better? Okay, it was good enough to be caught. It could have given them a tie. That's the last thing he did in that game. Played well enough. Didn't win. 3 turnovers, can't have it. So is it? I hate doing the simple thing here and say whoever wins the turnover battle, but I just hope it's not some goofy thing that happens that determines the outcome of this game. Some turnover, the ball bounces up in the air off somebody's shoulder pad or whatever else. I hope whoever wins, wins. And if you want to beat the Chiefs, like Swag said the other day, I think Kirk Cousins said it as well too. He's like, you got to beat them. They're not going to help you. They're just not. They're a buttoned-up group who've lived on this stage. Who do you think wins the game?
Kansas City. Which I will say, I'm interested to see the wagering folks. Because I think your public person that jumps in the NFL playoffs is just going to blindly see giving less than a field goal with the Chiefs at home, and they're jumping on that.
I haven't looked to see where the percentages lie with that.
No, either have I. So, again, you talk about execution. The idea of people going into that building and not being able to do it for a full 60, I give the credit to the Chiefs because they're the reason those teams haven't done it. And you want to talk about self-inflicted wounds? Yeah, because you know you have to be perfect, and they can't do it. So, I still go Kansas City.
I don't know how you beat them. Probably because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Buffalo did it in their place, and it took some Herculean stuff from Josh Allen, but they did. So at least they have a game script to know they can.
Everything you want, you got, Buffalo.
And amazing how evenly matched they've been, and it's also amazing how the regular season piece falls to Buffalo and the postseason pieces fall in Kansas City's way.
Trying to think in that 4-year run with Buffalo if they won an AFC title game on the road. Feels like it was always at home.
What, back in the day, when the Super Bowls?
Yeah. They beat Kansas City with Montana. They knocked Montana out.
The Raiders once?
Raiders 51-3.
I don't remember
Denver.
I don't remember
Denver in a low-scoring game.
I never remember them once not being in what they called Rich Stadium at the time.
Correct.
It was
Rich
always
Stadium. You're right.
It was always there. So it's similar to Kansas City. The difference, obviously, for Kansas City is they've finished them off and get their hands on the Lombardi.
Cincinnati beat them. Because I was thinking, this Chiefs run goes all the way back to if D Ford doesn't line up offsides.
No, Cincinnati beat him.
But that's it. This whole
right. This would be 4 out of 5, 3 in a row. It's absurd, man. It's absurd. And I understand fatigue. It happened with New England. People get sick of the same thing. But I made the point repeatedly last week when we were out there for Countdown. I do think that, and I salute Chiefs fans for a lot of different reasons. They're incredible. They're there early. It's cold. There's a shit ton of pickup trucks out grilling meat and drinking cold beers, and they're ready. I think they get it, that they're in the sweet spot.
Oh, yeah.
Saw some young kids at the airport leaving, and they're 10 years old.
What airport?
Little FBO out there. There were no gates. Okay. And I said to this youngsters, I said, listen, you don't know me. I'm not going to lecture you, but I want you to understand something. It's not going to be like this forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to enjoy this. I said, when I was a kid, not as young as you, but when I was a kid, Washington went to 4 Super Bowls in 8 years and won 3 of them in a decade. And then they haven't been back to the championship game since this year. I said, look at me. That's how long it's been. You see the horror in the kid's eyes. He's like, God, you must be about 100. But I think they get that this is, when you're in the middle of the best thing that's ever going to happen, it's hard to imagine it won't always be that way. That's why I always felt about Bama with Nick when he was there. Like, Tide fans, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it, because it ain't going to be like this forever. And for Chiefs fans, you're in the middle of it. And I obviously understand they enjoy it. I just want to put some respect on their name as opposed to just being exasperated that they win all the time. The Washington Commanders have a football game on Sunday.
Sure do.
We tried to tell you last week.
People were looking at, like, everybody's in the lobby of the hotel, like, oh, the NFL games, what do you like? I'm like, just take the Commanders money line. They're like, what? Against the Lions? I'm like, yeah. Lions run is done. Talk about injuries catching up with you.
Yeah. And Washington's ability to do exactly what they did against Tampa Bay, which is possess the ball and drive, but they had far more chunk plays against Detroit. Terry McLaurin continues to be great. I think the Quinyon Mitchell situation's huge.
Sounds like he'll be fine.
Yes.
A little vitamin T. At shoulder.
That's Toradol for the kids at home. The needle of this long, and it makes everything feel just fine. And that's a steady diet in the NFL. Best ability is your availability. Dudes are willing to go through a lot to be available. Yeah, he's going to be out there, but he's a big deal. He locked up McLaurin in that first visit when Washington went up to Philadelphia. But Terry's had like 100 and I don't know if I wrote the numbers down. He's got 2 touchdowns and about like $160 or something like that in 2 games. He's been awesome. But the Commanders' ability to hold on to the ball and to score, and they've shown you, how many downs do we get to get 10 yards? We're allowed 4, right? We'll use them. They got them every time except when they brought Mariota in for a sneak on a 4th and 1.
That was the first one, too.
Correct. I don't know what to think. I had confidence about Detroit for reasons I can't describe, other than that I knew that they were going in there like, okay, we get 60, we'll take them. The Philly thing feels different. Maybe I'm in my own head here, but just the familiarity. Having played him twice. It's a division rival. They didn't stop Saquon either time. He ran for $150 and 2 in both of them. The fear of, at some point, you're going to be watching 26 run in space to the end zone like he was through the snow the other day against the Rams. It just feels like there's an inevitability to that. And Washington's strength clearly is not its defense.
No.
You know what's weird about that Detroit game is David Montgomery is a difference maker. They couldn't stop Jahmyr Gibbs.
Not many people can.
But it's wild that having a guy who's also really good means that sometimes you take a guy who's better off the field. And it benefited Washington when it wasn't Gibbs that had the football. The 26 for Philly's going to get the ball every time.
Yep. As
opposed to what happened with Gibbs coming off the field. So I don't know. It's not to say I don't think they can.
You're not as confident as they were going to Detroit. You'll say that.
I'm saying that about me.
Correct.
And I think it's because I'm in my own head because of the Saquon thing twice, and just because of the link, the division rival thing. This takes me back to my old NFC East days.
Body bag game.
That was a pretty good one. They played Philly back in '91. It went up on a Monday night, and they called it the body bag game because every quarterback for Washington got knocked out, and then Joe Gibbs and the boys went up there and beat him. But
is that Rippon?
It was Mark Rippon, correct. Mark Rippon was the quarterback then. But then I also think about an NFC East road championship game and that dump with the garbage blowing in the wind. Someone sent it to me on Twitter. Like, I still want to know what happened. Did someone actually open up an actual dumpster full of garbage before the wind blew it for 60 minutes of football? What was that? Why was there so much fucking trash on your field? Yeah, I say it that way because you kicked our butt and it made me mad. And Jim Burt was dancing around in circles and it was pissed me off.
While the garbage was going.
Garbage and him spinning together in unison. It was like synchronized swimming. I think that's just the angst of an NFC East thing.
Oh.
It feels different, man. It's the best division in football. Every single franchise has multiple Super Bowl appearances. And other than Philly, they've all got multiple Super Bowl wins. But Philly have been on the stage more often than Washington. Daniels has been great. I presume he will be again. I'm in a we'll see mode on that one.
It's funny, man. Like, just thinking about this, talking to our guy Kevin Nagandi, we watched the college game. Boy, good luck watching the game with that guy. Walking around the hotel trying to find a lucky room. I'm like, what? It says it's Spearmint Rhino.
What's the Spearmint Rhino, Steve?
Well, they might have rooms that are lucky, but he's like bouncing around in a lounge. He's out in the lobby. I'm like, what are you doing being around people? Go to your room. He's like, no, the Rams drove and got a field goal. And when I watched it in the room, I'm like, you're out of your mind. So Kevin,
I love knowing that.
I love you. I love seeing you every year this weekend. To see the relief after the game, and then him scouring press conferences to see what he's saying about Quinyon Mitchell, the quarterback, whatever. He's 100% Philly. He's unbelievable how crazy he is.
I love that because what do I always say? We're all from somewhere.
Correct.
And whether it's being a Temple guy or a Philly guy, he is Philly sports, and I dig that. I love that he has always worn that on his sleeve. He and I are trying to figure out, like, what are we
I told him no
here?
more tasty cakes. You hate tasty cakes.
They're not great.
Yeah.
They always taste stale.
What are the conditions? Weather.
We don't have anything to deal with.
Temperature.
I haven't looked.
30s?
Yeah.
All right.
Cold. It's winter. But it's not like they're not going to have to deal with what the Rams dealt with last week, where it was sort of sleety and then it's snow and then you got a full-on snow game, which made what the Rams were doing late incredible. I thought they were going to win the game. And that's me just thinking that Stafford's going to do it. I think it was you making the point about the comebacks.
I learned that from my dad a long time ago playing, and I was deathly afraid for Eagles fans they were going to lose that game, because when you get in that scenario, the track is bad, and we always say the offense knows where they're going. The defense reacts and plays. And when you're running that, and it's very simple to do because they're deathly afraid to get beat with a deep ball, you just run deep comebacks. The DBs cannot backpedal or turn and run and make a route. And Puka, I mean, think about the guys you got running routes. Puka and Cooper Kupp.
And Robinson's a guy
Robinson made a couple great catches.
Yeah.
But that idea, because it's not a crazy long developing play, and they did it. I mean, it was like they were on air when they're down 13 and they go down and score. It was unbelievable. And I'm like, if they get the ball back, they're going to do the same thing.
And then Sirianni calls it like a bootleg. They get sacked. Man, I'm telling you, I'm thinking as that's happening, holy smokes, you got a lot of things in play here. If the Rams win this game 29-28, poor Elliott, who's had a rough year, missed 2 extra points. He made a bunch of field goals through that snow, but then opened the door there late with a missed extra point. And Stafford driving them 3rd and 2, and they had like something happen. Carter got the sack. Yeah. I didn't mind a run there, but I understand Kyron had fumbled and
Higbee's wide open.
Was he?
Yeah, wide open, and Jalen Carter's there.
That might be the difference in this game. Is Washington suffered an injury on their own line,
brutal,
and he's been excellent. And can you keep Carter off your quarterback? Having a dude who's as mobile as Daniels is helps you.
That's why I wonder about the conditions, because he's got to be able to do that. And you saw, you can say what you want about Jalen Hurts, but like once that snow starts coming, he's not a factor really in the run game.
And he hurt his knee as well.
And you saw early on. So the conditions are huge, because I go back and I want to make excuses. I'm not making excuses for Mark Andrews. But in that game in Buffalo, when you have the ball and you just get an open swipe punch in the middle of the field. That shit happens with weather. It's not the same. You can't hold the ball the same. Even a catch, you have to secure things even more so. And I'll go back. 4 cold weather teams played last weekend, right?
Uh-huh.
The only one that lost was the indoor one.
That's interesting.
You know?
I didn't even think about that.
Stuff just happens. And going back to the Rams, I'm watching them drive the ball. I'm like, this is the most NFL team in the world. LA that plays in a dome got the ball to win a chance to go to the NFC Championship in the freaking snow. You know, like it's just amazing how it happens. But I think that the conditions are immense. Daniel's in those conditions, and then the Washington receivers. I mean, they've been excellent. De'Ami Brown, Ertz, Scary Terry, like.
Zacchaeus had a huge game in the regular season against Atlanta.
Yep,
he's contributed as well.
And people, last game was the Pickett game, whatever. Devontae Smith catches that ball, the Eagles win.
Correct.
Like it's there. So the confidence there is there for both teams. That's what I just wonder about Washington in the conditions with what's at stake. Will they be as fluid as they were in a dome against the Lions?
That's a fair question because.
But I still saw. I believe the Commanders win. I really do.
So you think it's Kansas City, Washington in the Super Bowl?
I do.
I can't wrap my head around that. I just can't even process the
What
idea.
matchup gets you to fly to New Orleans through Atlanta?
Nothing. Got a TV. It's quite comfortable. I got to work. Got to work here.
I go down and enjoy some of the festivities.
Never again. Scars are still not. Remember when I fell off that moped? And I had
rough season for you.
Yeah, we still got the
yeah.
Does that scar
looks like you had Tommy John surgery on your elbow.
I laid a moped down going 30, wearing flip-flops and a swimsuit, bro. So the scars have healed. Right, it's fine now. But like when this just happened, it hurt. And I'm a day removed from, oh, thanks, Jack. Throwing up the pictures of the
airport again.
Take it down. I can't look at it. I can't look at it.
Never.
I don't want
again.
Don't want to close with that on a negative note. You have other things to mention.
I was
snow in New Orleans.
Texting with buddies in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, even our guy DP in Pensacola got 12 inches of snow.
Stop it!
Swear he's sending me pictures all night. It's incredible, and I'm like, I texted my Brandon in Baton Rouge. I'm like, does anyone sell shovels? Like, they're out there in like these. Whatever you call the quads and stuff, and like they don't have sleds or anything. They're just blowing up like the tubes you bring to the lake, and they're just pulling their kids around the streets because no one's on the street. It's and you see the hockey in front of the Superdome.
I did, and I saw. I don't know what the pontoon boats. I saw down and when I was in 30A back on the plane. Not the place in Florida. That was my seat on the flight. And I was flying next to a woman, and she was a lovely gal. She was from Lafayette, Louisiana. They were coming to D.C. for some conferences. Well, that's why we couldn't get the PJ to come back, by the way, because they had the inauguration. There were no slots. So,
see where
fine.
You stand in the priority.
President, some bozo that lives it. Anyway, she was from Lafayette, and I showed her that, and she started laughing, and she's like, the Cajun people. I said, believe me, we know. There's nothing like it. But this is truly, this event, something they'll talk about for the rest of their lives. That time it snowed. Not an inch, not ceremonial, not for pictures on the gram. It snowed a freaking foot in New Orleans and snowed a ton all the way around the Gulf.
Houston got snow.
I know.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, I just got the final measurement. She sent me the tape measure in the snow. Pensacola, Florida, a foot.
And there'd be no shovels or snowplows there in the same way that you wouldn't sell palm trees in Buffalo. There's just no reason for the climate to support it. So why would you be in a situation to help?
So they just have to wait for a melt?
Correct. What are you going to do? You don't have plows and salt.
No, I know. That could be a while. When's the warm front coming in? I saw it next week, Wednesday.
Couple of days.
High 50s.
Yeah, a couple of days.
Here, so that's probably 60s.
It's in the 50s here?
Yeah.
Really?
Next Wednesday, Thursday.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I'm ready for that. We've had a prolonged stretch here. That was a fun thing to watch play out sort of on social media as we sat at the terminal and ate our pizza and flew home.
Ever again. Pretty sure we know the name of this podcast.
Probably. Anything else?
No. Watch some college hoops. The Big Ten.
What about it?
Ohio State goes to Purdue.
They did. They won in Mackey, which is amazing. They had lost 3 games in a row by a grand total of 5 points. Lost by 2 twice and by 1 once. And they're down 13, and then they just started hitting shots yesterday. That's a hell of a win. That was a hell of a win.
How much did Maryland beat them by here?
Ohio State?
50?
A lot. By like 30 some odd, I think. Actually, in the end, it ended up being in the 20s. But at one point, they were ahead by, I think they were ahead by 40 points at one point.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. Shout out to Danny Hurley, who screamed at an official, "Don't turn your back on me. I'm the best coach in the fucking sport."
He did do that.
That's what he said. We could lip read, and it was...
Boy, is it different watching them on offense.
He said afterwards, look, they beat Butler by 2 at home in overtime. He's like, we're not good enough right now. And he's right. But the problem is nobody could beat him for 2 straight marches. So that, kind of like Kansas City, right? When you do that, you take yourself to a place where you have expectations, right? When all you do is win every year, I get it. But just to full circle it with Ohio State, like the Chiefs are trying to win 3 in 3 years. UConn is trying to win 3 in 3 years. Ohio State won 3 in
4 years?
50 some odd years.
Oh, yeah, after 70. 70 was the last one.
50-ish.
Yeah.
So a little context there on what you guys did, Buckeyes. Ain't a birthright. But I get a feeling, again, those folks at Scarlet and Gray were very, very appreciative of this one. There was a different sort of an edge to them than I felt in years past. Less hostility, more humility. Although some Notre Dame fans told me that I don't know where you get that from.
Towards the end of the night on Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, I just finally got enough of them screaming about their team. And I was like, do you like your head coach now? That got him to quiet down.
Right, because, yeah, y'all were the ones.
You did it to yourself.
Yeah, you were the ones chirping for his head, not us. We were the ones trying to tell you, you might have a good ball coach there. I got nothing else. I thought I had something and it left my head. Profound. Thanks to everybody.
Airport, walking through.
No, everybody's really cool. I appreciate everybody's kindness. It's nice to be out there and meet the people. Thank you for being kind.
We talk about the Army, just one more to follow up on 11 Warriors, Ohio State. That scene as they're getting the trophy and every piece of blue and green is out of the stadium. And then, was it Carmen, Ohio?
Yeah.
Swaying back and forth. From one end zone all the way around to where your set was, which is the opposite 20-yard line. It was a pretty cool scene.
We were on live, our post-game show, and as that started, in the business, it's called laying out, which means shut up. And so I did.
Useful.
I thought, just stop talking. It was cool. And it's the punctuation. It's the exclamation point of a college football season where the team that won gets to sing. And Carmen, Ohio, that's their thing. They sing it after every game. And it was really cool to however many thousand fans there were singing it with their team singing it back with the gold trophy. Definitely cool. So that was fun to hear. Probably more fun to hear than me screaming the F word in the middle of the A terminal on Monday. Tuesday. A6. Dallas, Fort Worth.
Next time I fly through there.
Just go to A6. See if you can see the spot.
I'm just going to say it's scene of the crime.
Right. There should be like a body outline where I was just splayed out on the ground. The spot where my soul left my body. And I said, I'm not coming tonight. But we made it. Thanks to everybody for listening to this rambling discourse. I pray if you're in the Atlanta airport still, you make it home eventually. So that's the wrap of the college football season. Our next pod coming your way post-championship weekend in the NFL when we'll have a Super Bowl set. Go ahead.
Monster Pro Bowl preview.
Big. My sons, I'm pretty sure, think they're playing in the game.
You have to start laying the foundation that they're not.
They know they're not playing.
No, I'm serious. I know how you just you say it all the time. You're the nice guy. You're yes.
If they get to say hi to some dudes, that'll do it.
Charlie looking at the coach. Coach, I'm good. I got next one.
Yeah. I'm gonna run, and then he's gonna show them the route, which every route they show me on their hand, it goes like this. I'm like, just what is that? And they're like, they just give me the look. It's all this. Every route's the same. It's kind of a sluggo, and we're gonna go deep. All right, so run the sluggo. All right, ready? On two. Ready, break.